My name's Anna Cott, and I'm a sustainability planner at East West Gateway Council of Governments. And thank you, Jamie. This is our monthly sustainability lab. We have these labs the last Tuesday afternoon of every month to share sustainability news and what's going on in the region. So today we'll be hearing from the Mid County Sustainability Consortium. And you can find other upcoming labs at onestl.org, and you can also sign up for our monthly e-newsletter where we'll share more news and what's going on in the region, and also once a month you'll get this email with an update for the lab. And so without further ado, would you mind going to the next slide? I'll go ahead and first I want to thank our speakers for taking the time to join us today. We have speakers from each of the 4 members of the Mid County Sustainability Consortium: Jamie Hassemeyer from Webster Groves, Andy Burkemper from Brentwood, Deborah Grossman from Clayton, and Stefan Denson from Maplewood. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'll go ahead and pass it off to Jamie.
Thank you. Is this better? I'm still showing muted. No, you're muted. Okay. Thank you all for having us here to talk about this today. I don't know if I should look at the screen or at y'all. I'm much better with people. I'm Jamie Hassemeyer. I'm the chair of the Sustainability Commission for Webster Groves, and the most recent member of the MCSC, Mid County Sustainability Consortium. I want to share with you just a vision statement that we developed in the last few weeks as we're trying to figure out our role in the region. And that's municipalities collaborating with ideas, resources, and lessons learned to create momentum for sustainability, conservation, and efficiency action at the regional level. And with that, I'm going to hand this over to Andy, who's going to give you a little bit of our origin story.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about how this sort of came to be and how we got to the place where we are today. So back in January 2002, I had reached out, 2022, I had reached out to Clayton and Maplewood, really at the encouragement of one of our aldermen in Brentwood, to just kind of get together with them to, we kind of started with, we were hearing about, oh, I heard Maplewood's doing this, or I heard, Clayton's doing this. And so a lot of the things that we heard about them doing, same kind of things that we were interested in doing or already underway. So the idea was to just get together to, share information, share ideas, try to create, a little efficiency, since we're all kind of trying to work towards some of the same goals. And given the fact, really, we started with Clayton and Maplewood because I think there were some conversations already happening between the aldermen, or a lot of the city staff knew each other. And so we are all, neighbors in Mid County, and we all had sustainability committees. So that's kind of how it started. And we had our first, 1 or 2 meetings, and then Stefan with Maplewood did a good job of we kind of fell off for a little bit, a month or 2, and then he reinvigorated it. And then in July of last year, added in Webster Groves and brought Jamie in. And then around the same time, we reached out to St. Louis County, Mandy LeBrier, who was the sustainability coordinator at the time, and then Jean Ponzi with the Botanical Gardens, the Earth Waste Center. So since then, that's kind of how, and so it's been morphing a little bit as to, kind of started out pretty small, and then we sort of had having more, kind of regional discussions and discussions with the county on how we might be sort of an ignition, to sort of help move things forward on a larger scale, and sort of be a coalescing of this sort of central group where we can kind of start trying to drive a little more regional action. So it really is still morphing and developing, I guess, as to trying to find out where we can best fit, what the best role is, and kind of how to scale ourselves without trying to duplicate some of the work that others are doing, trying to be more synergistic with a lot of the other organizations. So that's really kind of how we all got started and where we are today. So I just want to give a little bit of a background about some of the things we've been doing in Brentwood, and then my colleagues are going to talk about a little bit more about what some of their municipalities have been up to. So some of the things we've done in the last year or so, the big thing that we've been working on really since our Sustainability Commission was chartered back in late 2020 was developing our sustainability plan. So this was a kind of an in-house, very much done by our Sustainability Commission with help of city staff. But we've kind of been methodically going, over the past couple of years, going through and sort of writing this, first outlining it, coming up with ideas, and then writing it sort of section by section. And we finally got the final draft. It was passed by our Public Works Commission, which is kind of the first step. That's where where our Sustainability Commission brings recommendations to. So they passed it, and now it's in front of the Board of Aldermen. It was presented to them last week, and they'll be voting on it next month. So that's been a big one for us, just to kind of, again, we're a fairly new, a couple-year-old Sustainability Commission, so we're trying to organize our priorities and sort of set a path for ourselves going forward. We've also, in the meantime, during that time, we've passed an EV readiness ordinance, which basically specifies all new construction, residential construction, both single family and multifamily, to have EV ready parking space in the garage, or if it's a multifamily, a certain number of prescribed spaces per parking space. A certain percentage of those have to be EV ready, or I think if it's more than 20 spaces, they have to have at least one. There's a certain amount of installed charging stations that have to be put in. And again, that's just trying to leverage, while you're doing the construction, it's so much cheaper to just run those extra circuits up front rather than trying to put all that stuff in later. Solar streamlining, we basically streamline the process for permitting rooftop solar, residential rooftop solar. So previously it used to go in front of the architecture review board, and it was really, didn't provide a lot of value. It was kind of they didn't really have many issues with it, except it added another couple of months to the whole process. So we basically eliminated that step from adding rooftop solar. We also passed an ordinance for that was compliance with dark skies. So all of our city lighting, city and commercial lighting has to be 2700 Kelvin or below going forward. That was something that we wish we would have done a little sooner, because we just did a bunch of work along Manchester Road, and in coordination with the state of Missouri, MoDOT, and there's a lot of new streetlights that went in along there, and I think they're all maybe 3,000 or just above what we have as our limit now. But that was one that we were pretty pleased to get through, to kind of help reduce that noise or light pollution. We also did a home composting program. So we did, I think it was our second year in a row of doing St. Louis County grants, where we provide compost bins and like food collection tubs for a steeply discounted price for residents, as long as they attend a training session on how to compost at home. And then also after we started that program this year, in the last few months, we realized that our composting ordinance actually didn't allow for food scraps. So we had to pretty quickly made that change. So people can legally compost in their backyard now. We also joined the Green Dining Alliance and made a basically an incentive for when restaurants go to renew their business licenses, they essentially get a discount that essentially pays for their Green Dining Alliance membership. We added a student member to our commission, kind of a non-voting student member to our Sustainability Commission that is from our high school. So she now just graduated, and we need to replace her with someone else. But the idea was just to get some input from the younger folks in our community. So that was pretty well received, and some good ideas that came out of that. We also joined the Midwest Climate Collaborative and kind of begun to get more involved in that. I went to the summit this year, and that's been encouraging. Some good relationships and contacts made out of that. We passed a native, or currently working on, two of the things we're currently working on are a native plant ordinance. So we've got a model ordinance from the Earth Waste Center, and we're kind of thinking about taking that a step further to make a policy for city, any city landscaping or plantings that are done to be native, and then potentially requirements for commercial and new commercial developments to have some percentage of native plants. So that's kind of still to be worked out. We're also considering the building energy performance standard. Looking into that's one thing where I think the Mid County Sustainability Consortium might be a good route because I think we're all interested in that. But talking with the city of St. Louis, there's a lot of concern, I guess, about the staffing. With the staffing required to sort of monitor and run that program. And then similar to that, there's the home energy labeling that we're kind of kicking around to try to figure out how to potentially implement that at the city level. And then one more slide, just want to talk a little bit about a very large project in Brentwood that's been, it's a pretty big deal for us, and it's really starting to take shape. So there's a lot of really interesting components to this that we're pretty excited about. So Brentwood Bound is a very large, essentially started as a flood mitigation project. So all along Manchester Road between Brentwood Boulevard and Hanley, there's been a flooding problem there for years, where a lot of the businesses are within the MAP FEMA floodplain, and so they're they get flooded fairly regularly, and it really depressed a lot of the businesses and real estate value along there. So the city passed a bond issue a few years ago that essentially put $30 million toward removing all this area, acres and acres from the floodplain, and creating a lot of stormwater storage, widening what the current small confines of Deer Creek. So that project, essentially the flood mitigation work is finally complete, and now the part is created 32 acres of new park space, much of which is part of the new floodplain, so it is designed to flood. But there are some new components of that are outside that floodplain that we're also pretty excited about. So there's a new connector to the Greenway, the Deer Creek Greenway that's to the south, and it also connects to to all the Brentwood trails and park system, including a pedestrian tunnel. I'm not sure if my mouse will show up, but so we've got a pedestrian tunnel underneath Manchester Road here. So this was an existing trail that goes up to the north and kind of connects much of the Brentwood parks to this trail system, and so this provided a really good pedestrian friendly way to cross Manchester Road and tie into the park. We had all of the landscaping that was done in this area were native plantings, and that included over 5,500 new trees by the time everything is done. There's a lot of stormwater, basically everything that is and will be developed in this area that's going to have to manage its own stormwater, aside from worrying about the upstream stuff. So there's a lot of rain gardens and water treatment and storage features in there. There's also a wetland arboretum that's down little bit to the south here, below the Metro building. Permeable pavers in the parking lot for the new, you can see this is a new kind of indoor-outdoor pavilion. That's really nice kind of entertainment space, and got solar on the roof. So that whole parking lot is permeable pavers. And then a very large component here, there was essentially things, there was a playground plan for this area, but the rest of the work was running under budget, so they kind of went really big and spent that extra money on a big destination playground. That's like a 3-acre playground that's currently under construction and should be finished by the end of the year, that will have lots of interesting and unique features to it. We hope will be a big draw. There's also an amphitheater down here. So this lake here is a permanent lake that is designed to rise from the base level during floods. But there's this amphitheater along here that's a really nice feature as well, overlooking the lake. So that's all I've got. Pass it to.
Back over to me.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Thanks, Annie, for sharing all that. Okay, and I thought it would be important to share with everybody what Webster has done. When I became chair in 21, we decided to be a part of the Green Cities Challenge. So tip my hat to Jean and all that big fun effort, because that's where we kind of discovered and decided as a commission that we should kind of adopt some of the plans that already existed in our region. Collinsville, Illinois was really instrumental in helping us to build our sustainability plan, and we worked on it for a year. We did community outreach via survey. We had a little open house. We had a lot of one-on-ones with our city staff and our elected leaders, and heard from different boards and commissions, because we just felt really strongly sustainability touches so many things. And we wanted to make sure that everybody's voices were heard and part of the process. Collinsville was really generous to sit down with us a couple of times and share with us their planning and their documents. So in that spirit of sharing, I feel like MCSC is trying to do that same, trying to emulate that same spirit. We broke our plan into a few different sections. And the reason for the plan was to really kind of give us goals and to keep on track instead of pulling ideas out of thin air. The plan helps to kind of keep us focused. And then despite who's sitting in the chair for sustainability or who our electeds are, that plan is part of our city's documents. So the first effort, or the first section, is transportation and mobility, and that's including everything. And a few examples are electrifying our fleet, creating safe streets for all modes of transit, and encouraging our neighbors to walk and bike. And these are just some of the items that are in that section. Our built environment, which is super important. We're really excited that we're going to connect with SIUE and we've allocated some ARPA funds for an intern to come in and help us with our greenhouse gas inventory. So we're hoping to get that launched in the fall. We also, like Brentwood, kind of cleaned up our code for solar installations so that things don't get snagged up in the ARB process, that folks have an easier path through the city when they are ready to make that leap for renewables. We're also, with that code cleanup, going to launch a celebration. We're going to connect with Grow Solar, have a couple of power hours. And we also are using some ARPA funds for micro grants at the Webster level. So we're really going to try to make a smooth on-ramp for our residents in accessing what's available to them through the IRA, and then further incentivizing them to invest in solar through the Grow Solar Power Hours and the micro grant process that Webster is going to offer. let me see, sorry, I lost my spot. Oh, we're also looking into solar for our city-owned buildings. And that is just a few of the items from our built environment. The natural environment, we have a lot of great parks and shared spaces in Webster. And luckily, we have a really strong Green Space Advisory Commission who's doing great things for our natural environment already. And one of the things that we're looking at with them right now is stormwater management plan. We had a plan from 2002 or something like that. It's old, so we're looking to have that updated. Native planting education. We just, the Green Space folks just spent the first part of this year kind of educating our friends and neighbors on the benefits of planting natives. We did something called No Mow Month, No Mow April, which was a lot of fun and a greater success than we anticipated. We're also looking into a Leave the Leaves program with the Green Space folks for the fall and trying to help folks understand the benefits of that. And then the other section in our plan is community engagement and development. And that is just really important. And I feel like that's just a really critical piece for government to be able to connect with all of the residents and help educate and help folks understand that, you know, we're making some of these changes. For instance, we put new bike lanes on a stretch of Blackwood, and we didn't step out in front to alert our community that this is what was happening. It happened. It's not like we were keeping things secret, but we kind of learned that, oh, we need to get out in front of some of these things in order to help folks come along with it. So there's better understanding and access to the reasons why we're doing the things we're doing. That's why our education rollout for the No Mow Month was robust, because we felt like this is just a really important piece to help folks get on board with these changes, because change is really hard for some people. I don't know if you all have come into that. We also do fun things like a pumpkin compost collection. And that's like the first weekend after Halloween. So people bring us their rotting pieces of pumpkin, and we launch them into a big bin. And that's evolving and fun. We've done it for a couple of years now. We did a holiday light collection, of course, e-waste collections, and our strong educational speaker series. And we also do a lot of fun things with some community organizations. We have something called Webster on Wheels at the beginning of May, which is a community group that just gets together and tries to really encourage like safe practices while you're cycling. And, you know, we're hoping to like also bring along our motorists in that, understanding that the cyclists have every right to be on the street with them, and, you know, getting kids excited about being on their bikes. Unfortunately, that was like the first weekend of May. It was like 95 degrees and we were on blacktops. We were all melting. You never know what you're going to get here in the St. Louis area. So we're doing a lot of fun things to reach out to our community. We also, as a commission, felt it was really important, not only when we were writing our plan, but in implementing some of the plan's actions, that we connect with our various boards and commissions. So collaboration is a really big through line for our commission. And we have collaborated, like I said, with the Green Space Advisory Commission with the speaker series. Our stormwater management plan, we have a subcommittee working on together. And then we're also going to be entertaining the native plant ordinance and the dark sky ordinance to kind of put that on our radar so that we can present those ideas and those changes to our planning departments in our council. Our traffic advisory commission was kind of a quiet commission for a while, but they have since kind of reactivated, and we have collaborated with them and have decided that just kind of like a sustainability plan, we need a plan for the city to kind of stay on track with some of our sustainability goals. And the traffic advisory folks were really open to the idea of working on a complete streets policy So we worked on that. It is in the review phase right now at the city level, and we're waiting to hear back on that. We're really eager and excited for what that could turn into. And then we also have an older trail net walk bike plan that we also refer to. And while some things have been implemented in that plan, there's still a lot more to do. So we're paying attention to that effort with our Traffic Advisory Commission. And then our Business Development Commission has connected with us, and we are working with the folks in the BDC for kind of making Webster a green dining district, which I'm sure you're all aware of Earth Day 365 and the various green dining districts that are in the region. And we are developing also with ARPA funds a micro grant process for folks to for the various restaurants and food service companies in the Webster Groves area to be able to access. So there's also some funding from a little bit of funding from Earth Day 365. And then there will be some micro grant process for through Webster. So, these are kinds of things that we're really excited about, and hoping that Webster can become kind of a green destination. And it would, sorry, that slide got messed up. But this is our speaker series that's going to be for the second half of the year, and I can share that with Anna. That's a little cleaner. That just didn't translate. Anyway, we're really excited about our lineup that starts August 10th with the incredible Jean Ponzi talking about mosquitoes. And yeah, we're really, really excited about the things that we have learned so far from our neighboring regional municipalities, and really thrilled to be a part of the MCSC in order to be able to share ordinance language and build some momentum for our region. So with that, I will hand it over to Deb Grossman from Clayton.
While you're transitioning, when's the eco or where's eco ed series?
Yes, sorry, that was on the bottom of that slide. Thank you for that question. It is at Webster University in their Browning Hall, their new science building. And that has not been published on Webster's site yet. So that is going to be happening in the next week or two. So I'll make sure I share that with Anna so she can share that out too. Yeah. Oh, that's the last slide. So sorry, we can go back to it or not.
All right, I'll leave that to you. I'm Deb Grossman. I'm from Clayton. I'm relatively new in role, joined the committee, and I'm chairing it as of the end of last year. So I'll just give you a quick Clayton by the numbers, because we're a little different than the first two presenters you heard from. We are a very small community. We're about 2.5 square miles. We have about 17,000 people that live in Clayton, but we swell during the day with 41,000 people coming into our community to work. And part of that is because we have the St. Louis County Administration is there, the courts are there, the jail is there. We are home to many major corporations, including Centene, Barry Waymiller, Polaris, Enterprise Holdings, Graybar, and more. We also have a number of higher education facilities there, as does Webster with both Eden and Webster University. We have Washington University's West Campus and South 40 residential space, as well as Fontbonne University and Concordia University, and then a number of private and public grade schools K through 12. So that's a little bit about who we are. We're small, but we have some significant buildings and a lot of people to deal with, and that guides what we do. Clayton has been active in sustainability since the 1990s. They have been around doing this work for a really, really long time. And there is no way in the time I have today to kind of tick off all the different programs that they have put in place over the years. And frankly, I don't even know them all. I'm still figuring it out. Every time I go and look for something, someone says, oh yes, Deb, we did that in 2005, and I've got to go figure out where the information is from 2005. Our primary role is to advise our mayor and our board of aldermen and the city manager about various sustainability programs and practices within Clayton, and then also to be the face of Clayton for the municipal government, the community, and the metro area. And so that's why I'm here today. We developed in 3 or 4 months a quick strategic plan. It is very much a living strategic plan. It is not one that is as detailed and as fine-tuned as Brentwood's or Webster's. And part of that is because our city is going through a multi-year strategic planning process right now. And they're using outside consultants, and it is going to take over a year to probably get that done. And Jeff Leonard is here with me. How long is that going to take to finish that up?
They say it's 16-month project, so it's gonna go.
Yeah, so that will guide a lot of what we do ultimately, but we felt like we needed a plan for right now. So what are we going to do right now? And we don't want to sit around and wait for guidance from the city proper. We'll take that in as soon as it is ready for us to use, but we needed to have actionable items before that. In addition to the city's planning process, our Parks and Recreation Department is also doing a livable communities master plan that includes not only Parks and Rec, but also bike and pedestrian. And that plan has its own set of consultants, and that's going to be 12 to 18 months before that's finished. So given that those two big things are going on, our committee met, and Jeff Leonard helped lead that process to develop what we thought were the most important things to work on and to guide us as a committee going forward. From that, we came up with several focus areas, reducing carbon footprint and greenhouse gas emissions, both for buildings and for transportation, looking at water, looking at our green spaces, looking at how the community does purchasing, strategic partnerships, communications, and then volunteers. And each one of them would echo largely what you heard from Webster and Maplewood. So I'm not going to go through all of those again, but I will tell you that for our committee, what we deemed as the most critical and most important thing for us to do was to get after greenhouse gases. That's number one. Climate change, we can all, I think, around this table at least agree that our world needs some attention in that place in that way. And while there's a lot of good work to be done in a lot of other areas, that's one where we can potentially move the needle at least a little bit. So we have adopted that, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. The greenhouse gas emissions, the US government passed, set a goal to reduce greenhouse gases by 50% by 2030. And One St. Louis adopted that same program, and the city of Clayton was one of the communities that signed on to that. And basically, we want to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 by half, and then get to a net zero by 2050. For Clayton, the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions comes from our buildings. 87% of our energy is going to all the buildings that house those 41,000 people that are in the community every day. Not that many people live there, but you've all, if you're part of the community, you've probably been to downtown Clayton, you've seen the high rises. There's a lot that are already in existence, and there are a lot more that are going up. So for us, looking at that 87% and saying, and knowing that 30% of that energy is just wasted through inefficiency, that's something we feel we need to get after. So looking at what can we do around that, one topic that we're going to be tackling this year is working on energy benchmarking policies and practices, how we might implement that. The city of St. Louis has set a wonderful standard. I don't know that that's one that we'll be able to match as a much smaller community with more limited resources. But we're going to see what works best for our community and how we can adapt that. We also have a lot of green building considerations for new construction and things that we would like to see in place. And so that's going forward as well. We have been a leader for a long time. I think our police department put in solar panels in 2010 on their parking garage. And so that's still in existence and has gotten a lot of good recognition, but we have more work to do. So let's flip to the next one. One piece that we're working on right now is looking at solar development, like the last two communities you heard from. In January, we passed our ordinance revisions to make it easier for those people who want to put solar in place to just get a streamlined approval process. But we realized in doing that, that we have a lot of other work to do. So that was our first check. And we made that change, but we think there are other opportunities. Solar development, I think you all already know the benefits, but I've listed them here, as well as some of the cost challenges and other challenges that prohibit people from putting solar in place. So one of the things that we have done is we've decided to participate in the Soul Smart program. It is a national no-cost technical assistance program. So any of your communities could sign up and look to do the same thing. The goal is really to accelerate the growth of solar, renewable resources. The U.S. Department of Energy provides funding for it. What they do is they take a look at everything we have already done, and we've done a lot in the solar area, and assess it and say, here's what best practices look like. Here's the other things you need to do. So even though you've done these things, you also need to provide training. You need to provide this kind of outreach. You need to put this on your website. And we have our intern from Washington University with us today, who's been spending a fair bit of time working on that list that will be put up on our website that tells people, residents, exactly, here's what you need to do. And here's the various steps that you need to take. So I'm going to give a shout out to Erica for that. And so we're going through that process. We'll submit our application. They'll take a couple of weeks to look at it. When they're all done, they will tell us what other things we need to do. There's basically a bronze level, a silver level, and a gold level. And then now recently they've adopted a platinum level. We're going to try and go into bronze, learn what we can do better, and move up the scale as time goes by. So that's something that has been taking a lot of time for us. But I think it's going to be instructive and help us understand the best way forward. So there's a whole group of experts right there at our disposal. We also have, within our strategic plan, made a decision that not only are we going to push for the things that can move the needle on greenhouse gas, but also we need to be able to do some things that are quick, easy wins. Some of the things that you've already heard Brentwood and Webster talk about, we've also done. You mentioned the solar panels. We've done the ease of that as well. We've written for a grant proposal for an EV charging and fueling infrastructure. We've become a Lights Out Heartland program. We haven't so much focused on the heat intensity of the lights, but we put in place the dark skies so that in May and September, our public buildings are dark. And you've seen other places around the community do that. I know the downtown public library posted a big sign that says our lights are out for May and September. If you don't know why, it's because St. Louis is the 5th most deadly city in the country for bird migration. And one of the biggest problems with that is the upward lights. The birds get trapped in those. So by turning them off while we have millions of birds flying through here from midnight to 6 a.m., we can really drive change. It's easy, it saves money, it hits all the right notes for folks. So while it's a little thing, it's one that I think is fairly easily sold, especially on the Saving Money platform. Getting out communications on how to do emissions reductions and alternative recycling options, those are being worked on. Communications is being worked on. We have a lot of other things that have already been completed. The native plants I know is going around, but we worked with the Audubon Society a number of years back to put in place your backyard conservation or conservation in your backyard. I'm blanking on the actual name of it. But have been partnering with the Audubon Society on that through our Parks and Rec group for years. So I think that's what I have for you. We can go into a lot more detail on a lot of them, but I'm going to pass it over to Stefan.
Is that the Great Conservation Home Program?
Yes, thank you. And we used it within our Parks District. And of course, a lot of other residential people participated in that too.
No. No slides. Thank you, and hello to each of you. My name is Stefan Denson. I am the chair of the Maplewood Sustainability Commission. You've heard from members of our commission, Clayton, Brentwood, Webster Groves, discuss not only what's going on within their own communities, but an overview of the consortium itself. I would like to expand on the consortium. One of the, aside from the vision that Jamie presented, one of the goals of the consortium is to advance not just sustainability, but to advance equity as well. Equity in terms of, I guess one way to look at equity would be, if you are not familiar, perhaps become familiar with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act regarding environment. But that would be helpful to you down the road. The consortium, once we formed the consortium, one of the questions that we had is, what would the pillars of our consortium be? What would be the things that we would stand on? And how will we communicate those, not just to our own local governments, but to the county in general, which led me to make contact with the newly hired St. Louis County Sustainability Director. Things went well in terms of strategy. What we were attempting to find out is what we could do with the county, what the county's plans were in terms of sustainability and equity, and how we could work together to advance that notion across the counties in general in St. Louis County. We learned that that position of sustainability director did not exist within the city of St. Louis. That person had left that position. So we began a conversation of communicating with the many municipalities within the county on the issues of sustainability. And those issues varied, ranging from a sustainability plan, composting, ordinance change, greenhouse gas. The list is, I'm sure, familiar to most of you. What we found is that within one of the pieces that was missing from the consortium, it was recommended that I try to correct that, is I made an appointment to meet with Gene Ponzi, a world of information in terms of sustainability. And I had presented her with a copy of Maplewood's proposed sustainability plan. And we had a discussion about what the consortium aimed to do. So she was interested immediately and has been a part of our consortium since that time. So the consortium is looking to be a stable guide within the county, to be able to train, teach, assist other municipalities with issues of sustainability and equity. Along the way, we have learned that, of course, each municipality differs. The financial or fiscal issues facing a particular municipality may differ from a larger city. And so the element of time, as has been pointed out, we have to account for time in attempting to assist or provide any guidance for other municipalities, but that is one of the goals of our consortium. And once they are up and running or have an idea of what they can do, then we turn to other organizations, other partners, such as East West Gateway, in hopes that we will find a common ground with which we can bring the message of sustainability and equity across the region. That is, as I look at it, a green wave across St. Louis County. A green wave that includes equity. And I say equity because people are part of the environment. And so it is very important. It is not a simple task. It is a challenge because what started out as 3 municipalities and added a 4th and then added Mobot. And now the county and the East-West Gateway, I'm hopeful that we are able to teach, that we're able to fulfill the goal that knowledge is power, and that we are able to help other municipalities find their own path, find their own sustainable path. They don't have to mimic ours in any one particular municipality, but that they are able to find their own path and that they will contribute to the whole of sustainability and equity in St. Louis County. I will talk to you a little bit about what we're doing in Maplewood. When I started as chair, one of the things that I discovered is that we were having individual conversations about goals to accomplish. Someone might say, you know what, I think we should have a day where we do shredding. Okay, let's do that. Then someone else said, you know, I think we might want to look at having more efficient electrical appliances. Okay, let's do that. What we were doing were important items, but we were scattered. We were not coordinated. There was not a way to measure our outcomes. There was not a way to communicate that information to the public. There was not a way to create continuity. So I asked if we had a plan. And they said, no, we don't. So I created one and submitted it. And it is now our draft plan. We have moved that plan after discussing it to the point of sending out a survey to the public to get their input on our proposed sustainability plan. Because again, under Title VI, public involvement is a requirement if you are a recipient of federal funds. So just a brief synopsis of what is in our plan. The headings are land use and open space, transportation, sustainable local economy, public participation, the arts, housing, environment and public health, conservation of resources, and civic pride. Under each of those headings, they're not static, they're subject to change over time. But under each of the headings as they now exist, we hope to identify measurable goals that we can then report to the public that will move our idea of sustainability and equity along the path to being a greener St. Louis County. We have our survey should be complete by the end of this month. We will take the information, evaluate it, and as a commission, we will discuss and move to complete our sustainability plan and make it available to city manager and city council for review, and hopefully that they will then pass it and it will become part of the fabric of Maplewood. The other thing that the city of Maplewood is doing, and all these things contribute to the consortium, but we are attempting to establish what I have called a sustainability academy. So it is I would say it falls along the lines of the EPA Academy, if you look at the federal side, except it moves in the area of sustainability. There's a lot of supporting material to make it a successful venture, but it is one which I did not see available within the region. So we have put together the nuts and bolts to have a sustainability academy, and we will attempt to make it available first within our school system and then move to make it available within our communities. So again, education, knowledge is power. Next, one of the things that we looked at is there was a discussion here today about solar. One of the things that we have looked at on a small scale, in fact, a single scale, was residential solar lights. We had an area of town that was in the summer, you wouldn't be able to see your hand a foot in front of your face at night. There were no lights, or the lights were so spread out that there were just dark zones. So we were commissioned to conduct a feasibility study for the feasibility of installing an off-the-grid solar residential light. So we completed that a few months ago and submitted it to council, and they approved. So we will again have the opportunity, I hope, to expand that particular project to look at the potential or the feasibility of solar lighting throughout the city of Maplewood. Hoping that we don't run afoul of any of the utility companies, but we hope that it will be cost efficient, but that is yet to be decided because the study has not been conducted. Finally, I would say that the city of Maplewood is hopeful and proud to be a part of the consortium. And we hope that we are able to partner with other municipalities to move the notion of sustainability and equity forward. That is one of the goals of the consortium, along with the vision as has already been supplied to you today. And with that, I thank you and I close my presentation.
Thank you, Stefan. I think if I unmute my laptop, I think there's going to be feedback. So hopefully they can hear me online. But I did, first of all, wanted to thank our presenters. Oh, yes, please. Thank you. So I wanted to thank our presenters, but also there's been a lot of interest in installing EV chargers at the city level. And so I asked Webster Groves if they might be able to share a little bit about their process of installing EV chargers, and their assistant public works director is here. So I was wondering if you would be willing to share any lessons learned from the process, or. And I'm so sorry, in order for people to Zoom to hear you, you have to sit at one of the laptops.
I will do my best.
Okay.
Agreed to.
You can switch spots with me and they should be able to hear you.
Yeah, that's right. Forgiveness versus approval.
Thank you, Vera.
So hi, I'm Vera Cavato. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works for the City of Webster Groves. As far as the EV chargers, we currently have 2 dual port EV chargers. One is for fleet vehicles for police. We purchased 2 Ford Mustangs for our police department, and the other dual port is at City Hall, available for public use. They are both level 2 chargers. I think there's a third one that's in storage that we're going to install either for the planning department at City Hall for fleet vehicles, or at the street department for electric vehicles at a later date. We've also applied for the EV charging grant, same as Clayton, with the proposal of 18 dual port fast level 3 chargers. 10 are for fleet vehicles. No, I got that backwards. 10 are for public and 8 are for fleet vehicles, with the hopes of having, I think, 10 electric fleet vehicles for our city, planning, public works, police and fire by I think, the year of 2025 fiscal year. So we're very hopeful to get part or all of that grant. Clayton, I'm sure you've been through the EV grant for that process.
Just recently completed and submitted.
Yeah, it was due a week or two ago.
Yep.
So we're very excited to move forward with EV chargers, get our fleet, add electric vehicles to that, and see how that works. Any
Are
questions?
the level 2 chargers connected or, like kind of dumb? You know what I mean? Are they like a charge point one?
They are the charge point ones. So in efforts to use them, I think you have to download an app, and I personally haven't used them yet. But, you have to download the app. And it should be able to tell you like when your car is fully charged, when spots are available. I'm saying nods. So that's what we have is two of those installed right now. But all the ones that were proposed in the grant are level 3 chargers, the fast chargers.
Where would you propose to put those?
Parks and Rec Center. A lot of parks throughout the city. Not have to bring my list with me.
Our business districts.
So how many different, I mean, is it 2 in every location or 1, spread out or?
Well, there's gonna be 2 public at the Parks and Rec, and then 1 for fleet, Parks and Rec, so there's 3, and then we have 1 at the Firehouse 2. And then spread out through various parks in the city. So along with that, I'm sorry, we had to make sure, we included ADA compliance, some permeable pavement. We proposed where it works, some solar canopies for these charging stations. That'd be on the grid and have solar panels. I'm sorry.
That was my question. It's gonna be about 80 lines.
Yes.
Making it available.
Yes, we're gonna, part of the grant is requirement is to have it ADA compliant. So we included some of those infrastructure requirements within the grant.
Looks like there's a hand up, yeah.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, thanks. Hey, the
Oh,
fleet chargers, are those in areas that are accessible by the public, or are they in a, secure area?
Both. We are proposing 8 dual port level 3 chargers for fleet vehicles, for planning, public works, police and fire, and the rest, the 10 remaining proposed level 3 dual port chargers are for public access.
So the ones that are for your fleets, though, are they, the public can't get to them, right? Are they behind fences or in garages or something like that?
No, they're not behind fences. They're not isolated or separated with any sort of security. The one for the current existing one for our police fleet is just on the other side, on the city side where the police and fire park and planning.
Okay.
parks.
And then does ChargePoint give you the ability to only allow city vehicles to charge on them? Is that the advantage of using ChargePoint for those?
I don't have an answer to that question. The chargers, the project started before I was with the city. I think ChargePoint collects all the funds, and I thought I saw somebody nodding on ChargePoint. So I believe
I don't know where the funds go.
I believe ChargePoint collects all the funds for the charging, for the EV charging, and then has their administrative costs, and then the rest returns to the city. I think we charge, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, 15 cents per kilowatt hour.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
There are no other questions.
Thank you.
Well, sure, that's just kind of a broad question for all of you. Pushback. You have a whole lot of different masters in your world. You've got the citizen, you've got the mayor, you've got the folks with the budget, and you're outside of their budget planning perhaps. So can any of you speak to your experiences with how you've handled pushback and basically how to normalize what you're doing instead of making it novelty that we're putting in EV chargers, but instead it's an expectation, for example?
Yes. So the question was, how do you handle pushback and kind of make some of these new measures such as EV chargers more standard across the board? Am I summarizing that well?
It's just a diverse audience that you're.
So, I mean, I can start. I will try to start. There we go. So I think, for me, first of all, we've got a pretty, we've got, the House has a majority at this point, so we've got a good, a majority of aldermen that are pretty on board with a lot of these things. And so, Public Works Department and our Board of Aldermen, and the mayor, they're all pretty much aligned. We've got some outliers, but they're in the minority. So that's part of why we're, kind of pushing to just get stuff through, while the support is there, because you never know. But I think a lot of it, honestly, comes to education, because most of the stuff we propose, it makes good sense. And the people that are asking questions about it or, opposing it, it's often coming from a place of misunderstanding or, I don't want to say ignorance, but, they just don't really understand what it is we're trying to do and why. So just trying to have those conversations, educating them. I did have I said we just proposed our draft sustainability plan to the Board of Aldermen last week, and was in another meeting following day with one of the aldermen when he before the meeting, he's like, yeah, by the way, I've got some questions about some of those things in the plan. And one of the things was like EV chargers, actually. He was like, what about, or just EV kind of push to electrified vehicles and then the charging support it in general. It's like, what about other technologies? Like what if hydrogen has been a thing? And what if I don't really like specifying, prescribing what that sort of decarbonization approach is. And we still haven't had a fuller conversation about it, but my initial response is just that's it's a valid concern. Part of how we're addressing that is we've got built-in like review and periods to review the plan, revise as needed. So it's sort of a smaller scale review every year, and then every 5 years, kind of a more full. Make sure everything that's in there makes sense or change as needed. So, it's like electrification, vehicle wise, it's battery electric right now. That's where all one of them is. That could change to hydrogen, but it's not going to change in the next 5 years.
Or flux capacitor. That's not.
Flux capacitor is also good. That's for the 10-year plan. So, and I think, that initial response was, okay, yeah, he conceded, yeah, that's true. I can see that. So that'd be my general response. It's just there's so much, even as a practitioner in the field, it's so hard to be a semi-expert on all the different pieces of sustainability, but especially as someone who's, it's not really their bag. there's just something, there's so much to understand, and most people don't have a great understanding of it. So trying to bridge that and get them to kind of see where things are going, where the trends are and why this really does make sense. And financially, a lot of these things, especially when it comes to vehicle electrification, for a lot of those sort of low-hanging fruit types of vehicle uses, they make good fiscal sense, and it's kind of no-brainers. Some of the larger vehicles, things like that are more difficult, more expensive, and the financials might not work out just yet, but it's getting there. So, yeah.
I guess the only thing I would add to that, I need to get closer. The only thing I would add is like anything else, just personal relationships and building, and finding, what's the common ground, and which bottom line is going to speak to that individual or that group of people the most. Is it going to be the best thing for the future as far as making sustainable choices? Is it going to be the fiscal bottom line, and or appealing to folks who let's just do this because it's the right thing? So that's kind of the strategy that our commission has used in our outreach and
I think for our community, Clayton's pretty progressive. So I don't know that we have had as much pushback as perhaps other communities in our region might experience. In some ways, we've had people asking for what they want. They want electric chargers. They want to come to the restaurants and plug in so that they can charge while they're having dinner, or they want to do it while they're walking out of Clayton Center. So there's a knowledge and a demand base for it. I think where the public is knowledge-wise is so much better than it was 10 or 20 years ago. They just have to read the paper and you can see what's going on in the world. And it's coming from many different directions.
Wait, paper? Oh, what?
Now, I read mine on my phone or on my laptop, but I still get,
Guys, you know this paper.
yeah, paper, electric paper. But yeah, you can't help but if you are getting any of the major news media, let's put it that way, you're getting it as a little push out or the whole read and swipe. Those stories are there, and it's an international story, but St. Louis is as much a part of it as any place else because nobody gets a pass. We all have to do our piece. And is our committee going to change the world? No, but we're going to do our piece. We're going to do the best we can. And we're going to try and bring people along, and they're going to bring us along.
I do have one question and also something to share. At OneSTL.org, we have a list of sustainability ordinances in the region, and I've shared it in the chat, but I'll share it on, I'll try to share my screen as well. And my question was, with the streamlining the solar process, let's see, so we've got OneSTL's website, and then if you go to resources, and then codes and ordinances, so we have complete streets ordinances, EV ready ordinances, Brentwood's is there. The Green Dining Alliance, native plant ordinances, hopefully soon to include Brentwood and Webster. So I was curious, is there anything on paper we can share about how that was done, or but in terms of streamlining the solar process?
I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for, but we have it in the minutes of our Board of Alderman meeting. We have it on, I think even within our Sustainability Action Committee, there was a discussion on that. I mean, we can provide you with what the change was for the ordinance.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how useful it will be for people to read a whole ordinance change. I would think perhaps a short executive summary might be more useful.
Yeah, it sounds like we each had similar, they had to go in front of the Board of Architecture Review Board or something like that. You know, like there was that step in that solar application process that everyone kind of realized was sort of unnecessary. So I mean, that for us, that was the big one, was just kind of eliminating that. As long as there's kind of I think our ordinance has a few bullets, like as long as it doesn't, as long as the materials that you use are non-reflective or something like that, or it's hidden, they're flat with the roof, and or they're hidden, like it's a flat roof, they can be kind of
Angled.
angled or whatever, but it's not really, it's like sticking up and out, where it's visible. As long as it meets those, that's something that staff essentially, when they review your permit application, like your electrical permit application, whatever it is, they just take a look at that, and then as long as they can check those boxes, it doesn't have to go any further than that. It just gets pushed through.
But if it needs to, in our case, it will. So if it doesn't check all the boxes, or it's particularly a historic building, there's some other objection, it can still get bounced to the ARB, is my understanding of how that works. But for the most part, we've eliminated that cumbersome step and the additional time that went around it.
Okay. We should question more about what the ordinance is saying. How formal and developing the ordinance is.
I would like to know that too, but I don't know how many people know about this. Has anyone here used it at all?
I just learned about it.
And one more thing. One more thing you can share on here. So again, under the resources, if you click on sustainability plans, it has all of the sustainability plans that we found in the region. Please let us know if some are missing, as well as the municipal greenhouse gas inventories. So I think all the ones we've mentioned on here that are approved are in here. But it is 5 o'clock, so I wanted to ask if there are any more questions from folks online.